You are watching Voice of Canada and this is Haroon. The federal government is again appealing a court order to compensate Indigenous children who were forced into foster care.
In 2016, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal found Ottawa discriminated against First Nations children by knowingly underfunding child and family services on reserve. This led to as many as 60,000 kids being taken away from their families and put in foster care.
Then on top of that, we had those inequalities in services were resulting in denials of services that not only harm children, but in fact have in legal orders been linked to the deaths of some children.
On this much, the federal government agrees, but it has not accepted how to compensate residential school survivors and their families, despite calls from Indigenous leaders and opposition parties.
And further, we are committed to working with partners to end this harmful system and to make sure that kids at risk get to stay in their communities.
Where we're at is this will be the 21st time the Trudeau government has gone back to court to try and overturn a court ruling, and they've lost every single time. Come on, Justin, look at the odds. You're not going to win this one. Do the right thing by the kids.
Details are emerging about a string of a violent attack in and around Winnipeg, where a man illegally killed his parents and stabbed a co-worker at a hospital.
It's a series of violent attacks that's left people in Manitoba shaken.
I'm shocked, just to be frank.
Judy Swain was the first victim, found dead in her home south of Winnipeg early Wednesday afternoon, now being remembered as a hard-working farmer with a joy for life who loved to dance.
She was just this very bright light. I think probably most people who would have interacted with her at a farmer's market or on her farm will be very surprised to learn that she was in her 70s.
Shocking too, the reality that her son was a suspect in her killing. Before police could locate him, there were reports of a stabbing at Seven Oaks Hospital in Winnipeg. Police say the attacker there worked at the hospital. When he entered Wednesday, he stabbed a colleague repeatedly. She is Candice Swarek. The hospital says Swarek was speaking with a colleague when the suspect walked through the doors, past security, and attacked her. The hospital's CEO says the chaos went on for minutes in front of staff, patients, and their families.
We had a number of staff that jumped the individual, managed to take them off of the individual that was being assaulted, and then hospital staff reacted immediately to care for their co-worker.
Swarek, a longtime hospital worker in her 60s, was rushed for treatment and remains in intensive care. The suspect, a man in his 30s, was arrested on site. As the investigation unfolded Wednesday, police went to his father's home, where disturbingly, he too was found dead.
Really nice man, actually. It's shocking to see that there's tape around there to wake up in the morning.
The suspect remains in custody and has not yet been charged as he undergoes a medical assessment. Insight into his motives and his mental health, just some of the questions still under investigation.
An epic solar storm may be heading our way, one so big it could knock out power grids, damage satellites, cause internet blackouts, and essentially take down our modern life as we know it. After decades of low activity, researchers say that we are entering what is expected to be an active 11-year cycle for solar storms.
A massive solar storm erupts on the sun, sending billions of energetic, electrically charged particles hurtling towards Earth, interfering with satellites, disrupting navigational systems, knocking out power grids. Sounds like science fiction. It's not.
Solar activity is ultimately having an impact on our technologies that we use every day.
It's the job of research scientist Robin Fiore to study the behavior of the sun and provide a warning system for when something big is about to take place.
So whenever there's a magnetic storm and we have an explosion of energetic particles coming from the sun, these will interact with the Earth's magnetic field.
They call it a coronal mass ejection, or CME, and the visible manifestation is a beautiful aurora borealis. But not everything is pretty about their impact.
They cause a strong perturbation that can cause currents to be induced in long conductors like power systems. And the impacts of this can be quite wide-ranging, from voltage fluctuations within operating parameters to more extreme events where we would see a blackout of the system.
Charged particles from solar flares are pulled in by the Earth's magnetic field and drawn towards the North and South Pole, so we are at a greater risk.
Canada is one of the countries that's most vulnerable to the impacts of solar activity and space weather.
This keeps Fiore and her colleagues at the Canadian Hazards Information Service busy.
So we have satellites located near and above the Earth, and we have ground-based instruments as well. And these help us to look at the impacts of the solar activity on our magnetic field and also on the upper atmosphere and ionosphere, so that we can look at potential impacts to the systems on and near the Earth.
It's about to get a lot more energetic. Solar activity occurs in 11-year cycles, and we are now moving from a minimum activity level to a maximum one.
We're starting to see more and more activity, and we're starting to expect the potential for more impacts to some of these sensitive systems.
Power grids are one of those systems. With over 4 million customers, Hydro-Quebec is acutely aware of the risks.
So how many people would this service?
We met with Louis Gibson, an engineer from Hydro-Quebec.
In March 1989, there was a big solar storm, and it took the power of Hydro-Quebec, so we had a blackout. And to this day, this is the biggest impact a solar storm had on any electrical utility. So this for us was a wake-up call, and we had to take this matter very seriously since then.
That power failure forced the public utility to install safety equipment to protect the system from sudden electrical surges caused by storms. And they regularly run simulation scenarios to test everything.
So there is a standard in place now in North America where the electrical utilities have to make sure, they have to plan and prepare the network so they can withstand a 1 in 100-year event, solar storm event.
That 1 in a 100-year storm is what everyone worries about. One already happened in 1859, known as the Carrington event. It was a storm so big that it literally set telegraph wires on fire. It could happen again, and most likely will, but this time it will impact a lot more than just our power grids.
Energetic particles coming from the sun can directly impact satellites, causing disruptions to their operation, even causing the satellites to become disabled or reducing the lifespan of the satellites.
Recently, there's been talk of how critical cables running under the sea might also be at risk. In the UK, Tony Frisch is the Chief Technical Officer for Xterra, a provider of international subsea fiber optic systems.
These cables are the things that you use when you're doing a Zoom call, when you're surfing on the internet and you're trying to get content from one country to another. There's probably enough cable in the seas to go around the world about 30 to 50 times.
There's a component of these cables known as a repeater that is particularly sensitive to solar activity.
We have some very expensive power equipment which provides the power for these submerged electronics, and that drives current all the way through the centre of the cable. If you had a really big storm event, that could induce quite large current to go through the cable. One of the problems with a cable like this is that it's, in a sense, the worst possible thing that you could have. It's very long, so lots of current could get induced in it.
But Frisch believes there's a solution.
If you knew that there was an event coming, you would in fact turn the cable system down and disconnect it until you were sure that that event was finished. Because the good thing about these really extreme events is that you get some warning for them.
A 1 to 3 day warning, in fact, thanks to the work of researchers like Fiore.
That's the role of the Canadian Hazards Information Service, because space weather is a hazard. It's a hazard of the technological age, right? So this is why we perform this research as well.
The governing Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba named Heather Stephenson as their new leader on Saturday, making history as the first woman to lead the province.
Welcome to the 2021 PC Manitoba leadership election.
So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Premier of Manitoba, the Honourable Kelvin Goertzen.
Tonight, our party and our province is going to make history. We are excited about today, and we are ecstatic for what our future holds. For the first time in the history of our province, we will have Madam Premier in that historic office in the legislature. And I can tell from that applause that you feel like I do, that it is about time. It is a glass ceiling in Manitoba that has long needed to be shattered, and it's shattered here tonight.
We counted 16,456 ballots today. 82 of those ballots were spoiled ballots. 17 of those ballots we consider disputed. So we keep them off to the side in case the numbers were extremely close. We would then take their team, show them those ballots, and then we would enter them in. But we have 82 spoiled, 17 disputed. For the Glover campaign, there was 8,042 ballots counted for the Glover campaign. It is indeed my pleasure to tell you that there were 8,405 ballots for the Heather Stephenson campaign. The next Premier of Manitoba is Heather Stephenson. Thank you.
You know, I look around this room this afternoon, this evening. We have representatives from so many different areas across Manitoba, from our First Nations, Métis, labor, business, first responders, and many different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. Many of these people here today didn't necessarily feel comfortable being a part of our party in the past. Well, hello, Manitoba. Welcome to the new PC Party of Manitoba. I am truly honored and humbled to stand here with all of you making history in Manitoba. Today, our PC Party chose the first woman Premier in Manitoba, and you all played an incredible role in that. Thank you. A strong PC Party is vital for a strong Manitoba, and together I know we will come out of this race more united than ever, with a focus on earning a third consecutive majority government in 2023. Jason and I were born and raised in Manitoba and chose to raise our family here because, like many of you, we love Manitoba and we're proud to call it our home. In the last couple of months, I have had the opportunity to visit all corners of this beautiful province, listening to Manitobans. And I heard loud and clear that they want to see us take a much more collaborative approach when it comes to working with other levels of government and with stakeholders in our community. Manitobans want a government that works alongside them. They want to see a government that focuses on strengthening our health and education systems, working with, listening to, and learning from Indigenous elders and leaders on moving Manitoba forward with reconciliation, and attracting and retaining talent, investment, and business that will provide a culture and environment that ensures our kids want to live, grow, and succeed right here in Manitoba. To all Manitobans, I'm ready to address the many challenges facing us. Our immediate priorities must be to focus on repairing our relationship with Indigenous peoples, to get Manitoba through the rest of this pandemic, to focus on economic recovery with an emphasis on the importance of immigration and addressing the critical labor shortage this province is facing, and tackling the very serious concerns that COVID has exposed within our healthcare system. We will face these challenges together. We have a team, we have a plan, and we are ready to get to work. I'm optimistic and I'm excited about our future, and I look forward to working together as a party to ensure we earn the third consecutive majority government in 2023. Thank you so much.
In 8 provinces, 3 territories, and more than 150 municipalities across Canada, it is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police (RCMP) that hands out spreading tickets, enforces bylaws, and track down thieves, thugs, and drug dealers.
In 8 provinces, 3 territories, and more than 150 municipalities across the country, it is the Mounties who hand out speeding tickets, enforce bylaws, and track down thieves, thugs, and drug dealers. But Alberta wants to say goodbye to the Red Surge and establish its own provincial force.
A made in Alberta solution that could be both more efficient, cost-effective, and more responsive to the challenges of policing in rural communities and the particular needs of their residents.
The union representing RCMP members disagrees.
I would think that the commanding officer of Alberta, or any commanding officer of the RCMP who does contract policing, would probably be somewhat offended by that.
Indeed, mayors of some Alberta towns have already said they would get less police at a higher cost if they made the switch. A decision in Alberta in any event is likely years away, but in the meantime, the debate alone could hasten changes within the RCMP.
First, can the RCMP be changed in a way that would make it much more relevant, much more humane in the use of force and so forth?
Still, MPs from all parties on a House of Commons committee recommended in June that the RCMP should get out of the business of contract policing. But if the Trudeau government agrees with that idea, well, it would find opposition.
Canadians that are serviced by the RCMP in a contract policing capacity show 75% or more consistently, time and time again, that they are satisfied with the services they receive by their contract policing partner.
There's now a new minister in charge of the RCMP. He's Toronto MP Marco Mendicino. His office is not responding to the Alberta report, but the issue is almost certain to reach his desk in this new parliament.
Keep watching Voice of Canada. For further updates, visit our website voiceofcanada.tv.